Hello students, welcome to Legacy IAS Academy. In today's video, we are going to discuss about a recent meeting that has taken place between the special representatives of India and China on the border confrontation, border issues, and what has been the signals that we can see emerging out as a result of this meeting. What is the outcome that we can expect to take place in the future that can improve and strengthen the bilateral relations between India and China. So let us try to understand this about this all from the outcome of this meeting. Now, to give you the brief context of this particular topic, both the countries, India and China, in the SR meeting, if you talk about the specific representative from the India side, it was headed by the NSA, that is Ajit Doval, and from the Chinese side, it was the Foreign Minister Wang Yi. So these were the two major people who have talked and discussed about this. The major issues on which discussion was held is related to the disengagement agreement, where the confrontation has been built up since the 2020 along the Depsang region of the line of around the line of actual control, that is the boundary between India and China in the Ladakh region. So the National Security Advisor Doval and the Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi, he has said that for the first boundary talks between the special representatives since 2019, and both of the parties have agreed that this is a very significant breakthrough and development as far as the bilateral relations are concerned. Now, before going into detail about the outcome of the meeting, let us try to briefly understand about the special representative mechanism. Now, this is the mechanism that was developed by both countries somewhere in the year 2003. And the major reasons behind the development of this mechanism was to resolve the border dispute, especially along the line of actual control. If we talk about the India's border with China, India shares the second longest land border with China after Bangladesh, and it spans to almost 3,488 kilometers, all the way from the Ladakh in the north to Arunachal Pradesh in the southeast. Now, since 2003, the SRs of both countries have met by almost 22 times. However, the present meeting becomes very significant because this is the first meeting in the last 5 years. The last meeting between the SR took place in the 2019. After that, we know that we have a confrontation with the Chinese forces, People's Liberation Army along the line of actual control, and thus no such meeting was scheduled and took place. So success, basically we talk about, it has not been very successful. Still, China and India have a lot of thorny issues as far as the demarcation and delineation of the boundaries concerned. There's a lot of disagreements, and many times the Chinese forces try to show their force by illegally entering into the Indian territory. However, both countries agree that this mechanism in its present form is a very promising mechanism, can be very useful in the future as well as it can act as a handy tool as far as the tensions across the boundary between two countries are concerned. And the example of this we can see being reflected in the present meeting also. Now, why or what set into motion the present SR meeting? This is something we can understand goes back to the October 2024. In the October 2024, we have BRICS meeting that was held between the member countries in the Kazan of Russia. And it was on the sideline of BRICS meeting. We have seen a meeting between the Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi, and the Premier of China, that is Xi Jinping. So, basically, if you talk about, it was during this meeting, both leaders have endorsed that we need to have a disengagement on the border, and it was during this meeting it was decided that SRs will meet as soon as possible to further outline that how disengagement has to be progressed. So that is how we can understand is the beginning of this particular development. Now, what is the disengagement, or where is the disengagement that we are talking about? If you look at the line of actual control in the Ladakh region of India, we can see that this line, the red line that you see, represents the line of actual control. Now, there are many classes, the point of classes, but overall, if you talk about this region, is where you have the Depsang Plateau. It is in this Depsang Plateau, several patrolling points are there, more specifically patrolling point 10 to the patrolling point 13. And it is this patrolling point 10 to 13 that was blocked by the Chinese forces. Indian security forces earlier used to go for patrolling up to these areas, but now they have been restricted by the Chinese forces. So this is the area where we have to disengage. And once the disengagement is completed, again Indian security forces will be able to gain access to these patrolling points. It was due to this, you have a classes that we see in the Galwan Valley, that is around patrolling point 14, where the soldiers from both countries have lost their life. So disengagement of tanks, artilleries, guns and soldiers that were completed in the southern area already before, it is in northern India where similar thing has to be achieved, because both the countries have built up the forces both in terms of manpower as well as in terms of machines. Now, what were the major point of discussion? So both the leaders have agreed, both the representatives have agreed that we need to look at the last 5 years of development both across the border as well as in the overall bilateral relationship of India and China, and we should try to draw the lessons that what went wrong and how we could improvise upon this. Second area of discussion was that no matter what, we have to put our full effort in maintaining the peace and tranquility at the border. This is something that also is in line with the border cooperation agreement that both countries have signed in the year 2013. Third point, we know that in the Tibet region of China, we have the Mount Kailash, which in Hinduism is considered as the abode of Lord Shiva, and every year many pilgrims of India take or participate in the Kailash Mansarovar Yatra. So to facilitate this Kailash Mansarovar pilgrimage, also a discussion were held and the points were discussed that how we can do it. Then we know that the Brahmaputra river, that is coming, the major river coming from the China, Tibet to the northeastern part of India, it is lifeline of northeast India, we can say. So the sharing of data as far as the transboundary rivers are concerned, sharing of hydrographic data so that we can prepare well in advance in cases of flood that might be possible in the monsoon season specifically, and to improve the border trade, especially across the land border in the northeastern region of China specifically. So both sides has agreed these are the major issues on which discussion has to be done, where the prospects lies in the cooperation as well as in improvisation of relationship. Now, apart from this, also total as an outcome of this meeting, 6-point consensus has been reached by both the parties. So let us try to understand briefly about what is the 6-point consensus. Now, the first point of consensus is maintaining peace at the border of the countries, and for that both the sides have positively evaluated that what might be the possible solutions to make sure that the incident that has happened in last few years is not repeated. For example, if you talk about India-China's border has been largely peaceful since the 1970s, and to give example of this, it is believed that not a single bullet has been fired either from the Indian side or from the Chinese side. However, this perception changed in 2020 when both India and China have alleged that the security forces of the other countries have fired a bullet or basically have used an assault weapon. So this is something where both countries have agreed that we need to work out and iron out the issues. Also, they have discussed that disengagement has to be done. Now, how this disengagement process will be implemented, how the implementation work will be carried out as far as the border issue is concerned, that also was the major point of consensus. The second consensus largely was to reaffirming the commitment to continue seeking a fair, reasonable and mutually acceptable package solution to the boundary issue, rather than discussing about small contentions, small issues in a particular geographical area. Both countries are trying to reach a package solution. Package solution means the entire dispute of the India-China border can be solved in a single time by reaching a single consensus or agreement. And this is something that is in line with the political guidelines which was agreed by the special representatives meeting again that happened in the year 2005 itself. So almost 20 years have passed. Still we have to see the changes, we have to still see the implementation of these particular guidelines. Apart from these, if you look at the other 4 consensus, one was to build a confidence building nature and ensure sustainable peace and tranquility on the border. Again, it is basically reiteration of the same points that we have discussed before: cross-border exchanges and cooperation by border market, border huts that were arranged by both countries before, facilitate movement of people in a more efficient manner, and also China-India working mechanism for consultation and coordination on border affairs. This is a kind of mechanism and the office that both countries are trying to establish to have a continuous engagement as far as the border issues are concerned. And also, the most importantly, at the end of the meeting, both the SRs have agreed that next year we should have another fresh meeting of the special representatives, and to ensure that and to make sure that it happens, the Indian SR, that is Ajit Doval, he already has invited the Wang Yi to come to India for SR meeting. Now, what is the positive outcome that we can understand might have happened? So, first of all, as far as the Ministry of External Affairs is concerned, it has given a statement which has been agreed by the Foreign Ministry of China as well, that both the special representatives have exchanged views on bilateral, regional and global issues of mutual interest. That means the meeting was not only restricted to the discussion of the border issues, rather meeting was what you can call as discussing about the wide range of issues, both bilaterally as well as globally. Bilateral interest obviously we have as far as the border is concerned, trade relations are concerned. Regional interest, obviously we are seeing a lot of disturbances that is happening either between the China and Taiwan, the conflict we are seeing in the Myanmar, within the Myanmar. Myanmar is sharing a border with both India and China. So any such kind of regional problems become a common problem and a common concern for both the countries, where also there is an area of a possibility of cooperation. And obviously the global issues where we are talking about the tariff that US President-elect has said will impose on both China and India. We have talked about the Ukraine and Russia war that is going on. So how all these things can be managed by both countries together obviously is a discussion where the SRs have participated in. Also, they have agreed that as far as the stability is concerned, we should try to promote and practice a stable, predictable and amicable bilateral relationship. Because of this border issue since 2020, apart from the, we can say, trade, most of the areas, whether it is cultural cooperation, whether it is the defense-based cooperation, whether it is the cooperation in terms of what you can call as the investment, foreign investment, Chinese investment in India, all these were basically frozen. So this is something that were also discussed. And last, as we have discussed, the NSA Dole has invited Wang Yi to participate in the next SR meeting in India in the next year. So that is all about this particular video. Thank you very much.